Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm grateful. Thanks to Susan Day and her team for putting a lot of this, most of this together. Thanks to the technology folks. Thanks to the leadership of Federal Home Loan Bank. And of course, thanks to you for coming. And I'll start out by issuing a warning. And Monique Villiers will be keeping me on course here, if that's possible, to keep an economist on course. But anyway, and I will apologize in advance. I'm a challenged economist. I'm a biased economist, as all economists are. I'm just admitting mine. I'm on the conservative side. I'm looking for private solutions instead of government solutions. We need government. We just need a little less of it than we're getting right now. That's my view. Not necessarily the Federal Home Loan Banks or Creighton University. I can't even speak for my own household. That's how little control I have. So anyway, and everybody's always looking for economists to tell you 100% or zero. This is going to happen, that's going to happen. No, it's somewhere in between. And I'll tell you a little story. As Jeff said, well, Jeff didn't say, I don't think. I was in the military, and I flew on P-3As. You may have seen those. They search for submarines. Anyway, I had to go to aircrew training school in Norfolk, Virginia, beginning. And economists, again, I'm going there, and my parents dropped me off at the Atlanta rail station to go to aircrew training in Norfolk. But anyway, that's another story. So I'm going to Norfolk. I get on the train, and it doesn't get all the way to Norfolk. It gets to Portsmouth, which, as you may know, is separated by a tunnel. And you can be late for your job. I can be late, right? But when you're late for the military, they call that AWOL. And I'm sweating bullets there, and I'm walking around in a fast food place, and this gentleman says, I'll take you over there, buddy. So we get in the car, we're going through the tunnel, and I'm sort of a wise guy. I said, how do you know that I am not a serial killer? He looks at me and he says, you know what the probabilities are of 2 serial killers being in this car at this time, on this day? Okay, you got me there. So anyway, everything is a probability. And it's rarely 0 and it's rarely 1. And I was watching TV, I guess yesterday, and there's this gerbil, or some little animal, that picks what cryptocurrency you should buy. And it's returning 20%. And we economists are returning about 5%. So listen to the gerbil. But anyway, here are the 2021 challenges. Commercial real estate, it's still tough. I mean, as you know, and it doesn't look like it's going to get much better anytime soon. There's some losses still coming forth, and we're all sort of still making money off of the stimulus package that President Trump passed and President Biden passed. And if you've seen it, I tried to go buy a car this weekend, and I said, there are no cars here. Well, there's semiconductor issues, but there are also the issues that the salesperson said, everybody got rich last year and came in and bought a car, and there are no cars left. And they said, if you want one of the cars you just picked out, wait till November or maybe January. That's what we're talking about. Well, so we've got a real bubble there, in my view, in commercial real estate. We've got a bubble in residential real estate. Now the question is it going to burst, and when will it burst? And we've got inflation. And inflation, as you know, and here's the deal. Powell, Jay Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, says it's transitory. But when he goes to bed at night, he crosses his fingers, he doesn't know if it's transitory or non-transitory. It's looking like transitory, but transitory for me could be, transitory for me, I'd be dead, you know? I mean, transitory for other people, oh yeah, okay, it is over. No, how long is it? We're going to be stuck with higher inflation, and the numbers are coming out right now, and we're seeing it. Look at, there's so many inconsistencies out there. No economist can explain these things. And Jay Powell can't explain them. His team can't explain them. Why are long-term interest rates so darn low? If inflation is so high, You're willing to accept a negative rate of return, and you have been for some time. Interest rates are so low, it's unbelievable. And they cannot be explained except for one thing. As we say, sometimes it's the cleanest shirt and dirty laundry. Where else? I mean, where are you going to put your money? You want to go with stocks? You want to go with the gerbil? Or you want to go with an economist? By the way, go with the gerbil, not the economist, because my students always used to write. I teach an MBA class, and I teach a law class. And they always write down what I recommend. Always. For 30 years now, they've been writing it down diligently. And I was always so proud of that. Till I found out they were shorting everything I was recommending. Everything. And going long everything I was shorting. So, that said, but inflation, it looks like it's going to remain with us longer. Now, in other words, but is it going to be 5%? No. It's going to be something long-term, and the long-term meaning in 2022. It's going to be somewhat less than what we're seeing now. Higher pay for remaining out of work. In 2020, 6% of households paid no income tax. And I posted this, I do a Facebook page, and I posted this, and you get a lot of crazies, maybe I'm one of them, on Facebook. And they're saying, you mean, I looked this up, and you mean you should have put owed no taxes. I'm like, okay, all right, owed no taxes then, all right. But the fact is that we've got too many people, we've got absolutely too many people in the wagon, and it's too few people pushing. And anybody, and I had one of the persons, this was a prominent person, challenged me on that. He says, who said higher taxes discourage work? And I'm like, God, I think, and others. Give a man a fish, and and he's fed for the day. Give a man a fishing pole, and he's fed for life. I mean, that's sort of what I believe. And I think, and I'm an Old Testament economist. And so but the idea that somehow higher taxes do not discourage work is absolutely wrong. I mean, back in 1805, there was this idea that you pay, Ricardo, the famous British economist, said, pay the Irish less, because if you pay them more, they work less. We call that a backward bending supply curve. There's no support for that. People, when you pay them less, they work less. And in this case, we pay them more to remain out of work. So what do? Remain out of work. You're telling me that individuals are either stupid, in other words, they know what's going on, but they're not, or they don't see it. They're not. They see it, they understand it. We've rewarded, we continue to reward. And the $3.5 trillion package that Nancy Pelosi says, that I think she said they're going to vote on it this week. That is unbelievable. This is a bigger change, I'm afraid it is, than what we saw with Franklin Delano Roosevelt back in the 30s, 1932, and what we saw with Lyndon Johnson with his Great Society. This is a big, big change. And that doesn't mean it's a bad change. I mean, there are good things in there. And it's good for certain people. It's bad, in my view, it divides the pie up more equitably, but the pie gets smaller, in my view. What I'm for is a bigger pie. If you want a smaller pie, divide it up more evenly, then maybe you've got the wrong country. Maybe that's it. Anyway, any supply chain disruptions and delays, right now they're significant. They are significant. And that's when we do our surveys. We do 2 surveys, both of which include Kansas. We're seeing real significant supply chain disruptions, getting supplies in and getting outputs out. And why is that? No truckers. And that's not only. There are lots of reasons, but trucking. We've got this supply disruptions in New Orleans, bringing grain out of New Orleans. We've got supply chain disruptions in LA. We've got ships sitting out off port. Why? Because they don't have dock workers. Why don't we have dock workers? Because of lots of reasons. COVID-19 is one of them. It's not just the incentives to remain out of work, but that's one of them. So those are big deals right now. It's the biggest deal that we see in our surveys where there's bankers or supply chain managers. Federal debt, modern monetary theory, MMT. There's a person, the only economist I could find that backs this is a person, and he's in the state of Missouri. I'll just say that. He's the only one I could find. And other politicians back modern monetary theory. And we've got some politicians, and there are a lot of them in office right now, that believe you just spend more and you print more money. You turn the printing press on. And that's essentially what it is. And it goes on, and then we have no evidence, zero evidence that they're wrong, except reality. That's the only evidence we have. And the famous economist, Herb Stein, father of the more famous comedian, Ben Stein, remember, what was it? Bueller. Where's Bueller? That was Ben Stein. But anyway, Herb Stein said he's the economist, if something can't go on forever, it will stop. Now that's economic genius right there. I mean, that's how you get a job in Washington as an economist. But he's right. In other words, we haven't seen it yet. In other words, you can't continue to do this. We're putting it off on other generations, and somebody's got to pay the price. And we have politicians that say, no, you don't. It'll never. And the Japanese are now embracing this very idea. Now, they don't call it modern monetary theory. I posted this on Facebook, and they said, I can't find anybody who embraces this. Who would? You embrace it by not calling it what it is, and you do it. That's the idea. Okay. Democrats agreed to the 2.5 infrastructure bill. That's a real challenge, a real danger, in my view. Again, in my view. And it's not just Republicans. This is both. I'm not saying Democrat versus Republican. Republicans have done it. Democrats are doing it. And Republicans get back in office, they'll do it. I mean, it's what politicians do. Spend your money. They have different ways of paying for it, as you know. Republicans pay for it with debt. The Democrats pay for it with debt and taxes. Not death and taxes, although that's there too, but debt and taxes. So what they're talking about, this infrastructure bill is not going to happen. But think about this. We saw a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, and now we're just saying, well, go ahead and do that one. In other words, that's a great idea. Put this whale of a deal out there, and you'll say, I'll take that little bitty one. Well, little bitty, $1.2 trillion. Our national GDP is $22 to $23 trillion. Measure it, but nonetheless, we're up to 150% of GDP in another probably 6 months. Now that's including internal debt, internal and external. In other words, government agencies, government agencies. But nonetheless, those are the challenges for 2021. Let me tell you, Biden's bite, I call it, the impact of you and your business, overspending by state and local governments. And remember, we were all concerned about state and local governments. They were going to have such a problem. They didn't have a problem. Creighton University, we tightened our belt. Every faculty member taught an extra class. We laid off part-timers. And then we found out we had more money than we did before. Why? The stimulus package. We got millions of dollars. Creighton University got millions of dollars. University of Nebraska-Lincoln got millions. University of Kansas got millions of dollars. So we got fat. You know what happened? Midway, they started giving us extra checks. So we'll give you $2,000 and $1,000. I mean, this was nonsense. A lot of nonsense. I joke. Although I took the money I took the money and stuffed it in my shirt. There's a song about that. What was his name? Patsy, remember that? I took the bill and stuck it in my shirt. That's what I did. Stimulus and infrastructure bill. What's wrong with Keystone XL pipeline? I mean, we closed down, and I'm not unbiased. I was a consultant for TransCanada, so I'm a little biased on that. But nonetheless, we closed it down. Then, for the sake of the environment, then we went to Saudi Arabia and asked him to produce more. Well, now let you think about that one. Okay, deductibility of state and local taxes, the SALT, that may in fact come back. We don't need to be encouraging state and local governments to tax more. We need that deduction to come down even more. It's limited to $10,000, as you know. But the Northeast, particularly the Democrats, Republicans too, Republicans and Democrats, won't increase it. No, it should not be done. Higher taxes for small business owners. We're going to see that capital gains tax. I mean, that's an easy target. Capital gains tax at normal income for those 400,000 more. Well, you know how long that'll last. It'll soon be 75,000 or whatever. And what about stepped up basis? Stepped up basis. Eliminating stepped up basis. I mean, a farm. Think about a farm. An average farm in Nebraska is probably 6 million to 10 million, including the farmstead, the land, 1,000 acres of land. It's at least 10 million. You don't get stepped up basis, and you get this. I mean, there's a real problem. You don't need me to tell you that. Remove the cap on taxable Social Security wages. That's not in there. That could be there as well. That could increase marginal tax rates for some individuals, those who make more than 130,000, I'm not sure exactly where. It increase your marginal tax rate by 7% plus. Now, if you're a consultant, it increases it by both the employer share and the employee share. That's 15%. That's a real danger in my judgment. Higher corporate tax rates. Janet Yellen she taught macroeconomics at Berkeley. And you know what we teach in economics? Market-based economies, competition. And students they love it. Then you tell them, well, that's in the textbooks. She wants to get all the nations to come together to raise the corporate tax rates. You know what we call that in the U.S.? We call that jail time. You know, you can't do that. Companies can't do it. The government should not be doing it. Because we're pissed off at Ireland because they have a 12.5% corporate tax rate. Good for Ireland. Puts pressure on us. So she's out there negotiating that. Good luck on it. Green New Deal. There are lots of good things with the Green New Deal. We'll see, but there are lots of taxes on low-income individuals. I mean, that's where it's going to get hard. Now, there are going to be redistribution for that coming there. Higher oil prices, we've already seen $1 a gallon on fuel over the last year. $1 a gallon. Now think, if you consume, it doesn't take long to get to some big money there. When you drive, as we do in Kansas and we do in Nebraska, we drive a lot of miles. So that's a big hit burden. Punish low-income workers. Residential construction, we're still seeing supply constraints. My brother, he went out of business. He was a contractor back in 2008. He tried getting back in about a year ago. Couldn't get back in because of the regulatory environment. But he couldn't hire workers. Try to hire a plumber. Try to get a plumber to come to your house. I hope you're doing better than we have done. Not very well. It's just, we've got a real supply problem in terms of workers there. By the way, I've asked Monique, there is a positive side of my presentation. I've asked her to let me know when I've got 2 minutes left, and I'll give it to you. I'll give it bloom and doom. But here's just what's the good news? Last time I did a presentation, what's the good news? I didn't hear it. The good news, we're in the best part of the best nation on the face of the earth. That's this midsection of the country, which is food-based, agriculturally based. And if you look forward, they need our food. Our farmers, our manufacturers are the most productive on the face of the earth. That's my positive. Okay, that's it. Got over that. Single-family home prices. Look at this. Now, that's not true in this part of the country, but $342,100. Look at that growth. And here's Here is the growth, 14% year over year. And the source is National Association of Realtors. If you go to Case-Shiller, it's 19% year over year. And somebody says, is that a bubble? Yes. I have some rental houses. I can't answer my phone. I get so much solicitation trying to buy my homes. And here's the scam, if you haven't been associated. They come to your community. There's a realtor, or not a realtor, a buyer. And this is just a guy, gal off the street. And they come to your community, and they call me in Omaha. My property's in Georgia and Alabama. And they say, we'll buy it. They say, how much you want? I said, $100,000. We'll give it to you. I'm like, no questions asked, give it to you. And we'll give it to you cash, no inspection, 30-day close. You're like, how can I lose? And here's what they do. This is the guy you were selling to, and you go to the closing, and he went and he does a walkthrough. He does a walkthrough. In his walkthrough, he takes somebody from BlackRock with him. And he's like, hey, you want to buy this house? And if they don't want to buy it, they renege on the purchase. If the guy from BlackRock wants to buy it, they close. There's 2 sales at that closing. And I contacted the closing agent. She said, we don't do that. They refuse. This is Huntsville, Alabama. We don't do 2 closings in one setting. So that some of that's coming to a halt. But nonetheless, that's what's going on. It is crazy out there. It is crazy out there. 14% year over year. And as I said, Case-Shiller, it's actually more than that. Look at price growth. 19% all commodities. 42% for farm products. Now this is the 3-month moving average annualized. Okay. Look at metal products. Metal products. And look at lumber. So it's coming down. It's coming down, no doubt. We're seeing getting some breathing room, and Jay Powell's feeling better about his chances of remaining. You know, in February, there's going to be a vote, yes or no, and the vote is President Biden. And will he be replaced? Right now, my money would be on Jay Powell keeping his job, but Lael Brainerd could get his job very easily if those inflation rates don't come down by February. Let me show you the interest rates. This is before pandemic, middle of pandemic. And you see here's the one that really gets me. These yields have come down on corporate bonds. Just indicating to me there are some real risk out there. And if you saw the flare-up last week from China, Xi Jinping is, in my judgment, a very unstable person that could inflict great pain on all of us very quickly. And you think, well, he believes in market economies. He does, but he believes in communism even more. That concerns me. If they can do to Hong Kong what they did, who said they can't do it to Taiwan? Now that is different, of course. That's a black swan. Talk about an invasion of China. I don't mean to scare anybody, but now China's seeing slower growth, which means wheat from Kansas and other agricultural products going to China. We're going to see a slower growth there. China's slowing down because, again, in my view, governments don't run economies as well as businesses run economies. They have a lot of intervention by the Communist Party. It doesn't work, in my view. Price growth, look at this. Bitcoin. You say, look at this. Bitcoin, the growth has come down. It's $45,000, as you may know. Gold, look at gold. Silver. If inflation is so darn bad as I'm saying it is, why is that not reflected in gold? Why are you and I not moving to gold? I don't know. Who knows the answer? The answer is you're moving into government securities, government bonds, which at least pay something. The answer is you're moving into Bitcoin, believe it or not. That's a safe haven. Safe haven. Gosh, I don't know. Investment considerations, volatility there. Look at the volatility. Volatility goes 0.06, Bitcoin's 0.53, silver is 0.16. Well, I didn't go there. Correlations, Bitcoin and inflation. Very strong relationship. People are seeking, as inflation goes up, they seek Bitcoin. I don't get it. But I did not make a fortune as some people did in Bitcoin. And what did I buy last week? ADA. Yeah. I spoke at a group and I said, buying ADA. Well, I bought ADA. I bought a 100 coin for $300, $3 a coin. It's now down to $2.24. So don't buy it. Okay. Gold and silver. Look at that correlation. 0.84. They move up together. Okay. Pandemic. There's a little less since the pandemic. Gold and Bitcoin. Positive correlation. Pandemic, it's been negative since the pandemic. So since the pandemic, people have been moving out of gold into Bitcoin. Now that's not much of a relationship there, but it's nonetheless we're seeing it. We're seeing this individuals are concerned about inflation. You normally move into gold, but you're moving into Bitcoin. So it's a different world out there, moving into bonds too, of course. Bitcoin and money must be a medium of exchange. Are you accepting? In El Salvador, they said it's a medium of exchange. China said it is not money. But wait, China will issue their own Bitcoin soon, I'm sure. A government-run, not Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency, sorry. Must be a store of value. It's too volatile. Accounting measure, Tesla, can you imagine? Look at this, and those of you who are in the banking, most of all of you are. Now, as I understand the bill, it says if you have $600 in your bank account, the government wants the bank to report on that. I mean, haven't you been punished enough already? I mean, you've got the credit unions running roughshod, in my view. You've got PayPal doing it, and they're not regulated like you are, the banking industry. PayPal, other, what we call fintech. Fintech, yeah, okay. Accounting measures, but here's the deal. You take your Bitcoin, it's 45,000, you take two of them, and you buy a Tesla. Then you're fine, you drive the Tesla, and the IRS comes and says, you know, you bought that Bitcoin for $500, you now owe a capital gains tax, short-term capital gains for the difference between that and the $75,000, sir, madam. And that's what we're seeing, and it hasn't been ironed out yet. But when you exchange a Bitcoin for a euro, you don't pay a capital gains tax. So why is Bitcoin different? Why are cryptocurrencies different? Well, we will soon see. Ultimately, in my view, at least one, perhaps more, will survive. The idea that all cryptocurrencies are going to go away, I just don't think is true. Some of them are going to survive, and the chances of you and I dealing in cryptocurrencies, one of them. I don't know which. I wish it were ADA, but I doubt it, based on so far. Okay. IRS is taxing that conversion. Now, let me show you Creighton's leading economic indicator. This is the U.S. number. It's down slightly. It's coming down. So what this indicates, the range is 50 to 100, with 50 being growth neutral. It's coming down, but it's still above growth positive. So the nation is continuing to expand and will continue to expand. The expansion is slower. Let me show you this. This is Mid-America. It's higher, but it's coming down as well. This is the manufacturing sector. And this is the banking sector. All of them are coming down. It's what you're reporting. Those of you who are in our survey, and we do have some survey members here, and this is a survey that takes about 7 or 8 minutes each a month. And if you're in lending in a bank, if you give your name to Monique, and we'll add you to our survey list, either the president, CEO, or our loan officer. Lending. We track these. We track land prices. Land prices are booming again, as you know. We're seeing farm equipment sales rising again, limited only by supplies. Okay, farmland prices, the best we've seen since 2012, growth. 2012 and 13. Where are you going to put your money? But I'll warn you this. This is a warning. I have a buddy, he's a political science professor, and he and I have lunch together, and he asked, Ernie, is it time to get into farmland? When two professors are getting into farmland, you know No, get out of farmland. Yeah, that's the truth. Jerry and I haven't been right yet on investing. We do okay with other, maybe advice, perhaps. Rent growth. Cash rents are growing. We haven't seen the last of this. We've seen good land prices, and unfortunately, where are you going to put your money? That's the overall theme of this presentation. Where are you going to put your money? Where are you going to put it? I mean, CDs, you know what you get for a CD right now. Oh, it's better than mine. Farm equipment sales, best since 2012. Limited by supply, though. Limited by supply. Steel, aluminum, supply bottlenecks. Truckers, finding a trucker. I got a niece, Kristen, and she's just a young woman. She's going to sell cosmetics online. I go with that, but Kristen, how about a trucking job? She thinks I'm out of my mind, you know. Trucking job? No. I think, but we have a lot of young people who think that's outrageous that I would recommend a trucking job. And you don't want Ernie Goss jumping out there and driving a truck. You want Ernie Goss going to a community college to learn how to drive a truck, then getting out there. Okay. Farm net income, we're seeing some very good numbers there. Drought, obviously, is a huge impact. So if you're the farmer with crop, you're doing pretty good. If you're a farmer without crop, you're obviously not doing well, and you're going to get some crop support payments. This year, farm support payments insurance is going to be pretty good based on past prices. So that's going to be at least provide some bottoms for all of us. And that's a good thing. You're saying, well, wait a minute. You don't like subsidies anywhere else, but you like them for farming. That's pretty good criticism of me. I have to drive through farming, you know, and I have to live in farm. I sort of live in farm. I do live in farm. Corn prices, $5.85. We're not seeing $7 corn, but this is the best we've seen in some time. Only 10% of our bankers support the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. I'm surprised somebody asked, who's the 10%? It's mostly 90% don't favor it. Manufacturing supply managers, supply bottlenecks, 8 out of 10. This is a huge problem. Highest inflationary pressures in 30 years. Next 12 months, wholesale prices. The wholesale prices are underreported. Those are growing at very brisk paces, and some of us have to pay those wholesale prices. Now, that most of us don't, of course. Finding and hiring qualified workers, the biggest constraint. In conclusions, Federal Reserve actions on MBS. They're going to begin reducing mortgage-backed security purchases and treasury purchases. But between now and when they end, during that period, that is going to be still bigger than QE3. Bigger than QE3. In other words, this is not, they're still supporting the economy. And long-term interest rates will rise. Some, but not much. Not as much as we might expect. Inflation, CPI on October 13th. Employment report on October the 8th. I don't think this one's going to be good. The last one wasn't very good. This one's going to be even less good in my judgment. Gold prices, silver prices, 10-year treasuries, keep an eye on all those, particularly 10-year yield. The 10-year yield, as you may know, has moved up by about 10 basis points. It's probably going to rise even more. But it's not going to be as high as I think it should be. In other words, globally, all the money's coming here, globally. Why? Where else are you going to put your money? Despite all the criticisms I've leveled, we're the best place to put your money. ISM, keep an eye on our surveys. Our ISM survey comes out this week. Outlook, Federal Reserve again tapering. I think that's pretty clear. Higher municipal bond prices, we're still seeing that. Bond prices, there's still some money to be made in municipal bonds. In other words, people avoiding taxes legally by buying bonds. Then short-term interest rates will remain near record lows until the second half of 2022. I don't see that changing. In other words, what we call the funds rate. $3.5 trillion before Congress, that will be cut back. I can't imagine it being passed. If it's passed, I've got real concerns about inflation and others. Growth declines to still okay pace in the second half. Inflation turns to stabilizes in the fourth quarter. Stabilized, not coming back down, just stabilizing at a higher rate. It's going to be above 2% stabilized. So all of a sudden, the bets that we've been making on inflation, the bets we've been making on, I do legal work, and some of the legal work requires me to use the 10-year Treasury as a base. It's going to be higher, but still low. Historically, we could see, if we move back to the historical average, 2% higher. Are we going to see 2%? No. But the data, the numbers we look at, they should be 2% higher. I mean, can you imagine 2% higher on 10-year Treasury? That would be crazy. Ethanol improves for the year. Now, this is really a big issue for a lot of us. And I'm just hoping upon hope that it does, but we don't know. What happens to oil prices, what happens to corn prices, and what happens to the blending level passed by Congress and the executive branch. Sports betting. You've got 4 casinos in Kansas, 4 commercial casinos. And I'm doing actually a research project on part of it right now. I don't know if sports betting's there. I just did an analysis in Iowa. And it's in the Illinois Law Review in November, I think. But what we found is sports betting, you think it would cannibalize some other betting. No. It gets more betting coming in. It's younger people. Instead of people like me, this is young guys and gals that come and register for remote betting, and they bet in the comfort of some bar, sports bar. That's a real, I think it doesn't support good economic growth. Now that's my own bias and my judgment, but that's what we're seeing. Black swan, China and Taiwan, obviously that's a black swan. I don't think that would be very, very remote. But it's not remote to see China meddling, and they meddled in their own housing market, real estate I should say. We're going to continue to see that. And you know, investors don't like meddling, particularly by communist governments. Can you imagine betting, you know, and Tesla being in China? We've got Apple in China. There's why are those prices pulling back? Some of it is China. But I'm going to stop right there. If you'd like to get my newsletter, either give Monique your email address, or you can go on Goss Associates and get it. And I don't share the data in anybody. I'm not that sophisticated. And take questions now. Okay. Issues, questions? Yes?
This is kind of a political question. So
oh, gosh.
But the $3.5 trillion spending plan, what do you, I'm like you, I can't hardly believe it passed. Do you think the Democrats will reduce it a little bit where they can get Joe Manchin and some of the others to sign off? And if so, where do you think they'll end up with that?
That's a great question. And I don't, obviously I'm not informed on it, but that's never stopped me from commenting on it. So anyway, what will happen is Manchin's going to hold the line. He can't write what he did in the Wall Street Journal and pass it. Just can't. He can't even go back into the state of West Virginia as it is. And Kristen Sinema likewise. They're going to pull it back. But pulling it back is still a big deal. And they're saying, President Biden says it's no cost. Wow, I like that as bad. I mean, then send me one of them. Send me one of those bonds or whatever. All right, send me some of the cash. No cost. The reason it says it's no cost is it's picked up by taxes. That's cost to me. But it will pass. I think but it will not pass 3.5 trillion. I don't see any way, anyhow, it can. So pull back, but pulling back is 1.5. Say 1.5. That's what Manchin thinks. 1.5 plus the 1.2. That's still $2.7 trillion. And they say that's over 10 years. That's still divide that by 10. You're pretty talking about a whack. Big push to the economy. And as you know, what you end up with is inflation. When we had the Great Society back in the 60s, what happened? It wasn't all Great Society. It was also spending on the Vietnam War. But we had runaway inflation in the 70s and 80s. We had interest rates, mortgage rates up to 16% and 17%. And that, if you paid that now, that's still a loan shark, not to bank. So that's what we're going to see. I just don't see it. But how much will be pulled back? That's the question. Which programs? Which programs? Is it going to be the child care credit? Is it going to be family leave? Where is it going to be? I don't know. Any other questions? Yes?
A quick question on your thoughts. Can I ask a question earlier? The other half of the real mandate on state workforce. There seems to be a disconnect between the unemployment rate and the number of jobs opening. And so I'm wondering what the definition of full employment is.
Yes, that's a great question. We don't really know. There are 11 million open job openings. There are about 7 to 8 million unemployed workers. So what's the problem here? Well, you've got unemployed here, work jobs there. That's one of them. You got need for truckers. You got people who can't drive a truck. That's also. But you got people who are afraid of being infected by COVID-19. That's part of it. But part of it is also that you're getting a lot more remaining unemployed. Or not working, I should say. Not working. So a lot of it is mismeasured because, let's say mismeasured. A lot of folks have moved out of the workforce, so they're not counted on either side, either working or not working, unemployed. And that would be baby boomers who are getting to the point like, I'm just going to retire. I can't take this anymore. And you're seeing it in academics, you're seeing it all over. So that's part of it as well. But that's a big issue, potentially the mismeasurement. How do you gauge to be unemployed? You have to be 16 and above. You have to be available for work. You have to be looking for work. Those are the conditions. A lot of folks don't meet those three conditions, yet they're counted as unemployed. That's a problem as well. So, in other right now, you can meet those conditions. The employment agency, the Kansas Employment Agency, they're not going to push you on that. I don't think. In Nebraska, they're not. In other words, if you say you look for a job, you look for a job. So you get and by the way, we had a 25% increase in food stamps. I don't quarrel with that, but that does incentivize not making more money. So, I'm concerned about the incentives that all of us out there are getting, the signals we're getting. And the signals are there are positive signals to get a job. I'm not saying that. But there are some people, particularly, Monique brought me oat bran the other day? She found it, one of my favorite cereals. She found it but I couldn't find it. There's no production going on. Think of the empty shelves you're seeing. We're almost like, is this Venezuela? I remember Venezuela, the empty shelves and higher prices. Well, it's not Venezuela. I'm not saying it. But it's much lower inflation. But we are seeing empty shelves because of lack of workers. And then the supply disruptions. Getting that oat bran from the production facility in Kellogg, I think it's Kellogg, to Walmart, where my wife buys it. Not there. So, Tony happened to discover there were two boxes, I think you said. And you got both of them, didn't you? Okay. One for you, one for me. So, don't go there. It's not there anymore. So, I don't think I've quite addressed your question, but that's as close as I can get. But we've got 11 million job openings right now. And a lot of them, we're not even advertising. Some companies are not even advertising. I'm very lucky I'm in a university that I can find people in my classes to hire. And I do hire. I just hired 2 in the last couple of weeks that you can't get access to them, that you could, but you don't. And that's how we do it. That's how we survive. That's how we're surviving at Creighton University. The students don't want to go off campus. So, and they don't want, the COVID-19 is not a small factor either.
So as a follow-up, is that going to pay more attention to the inflation number because you can't really put a hand
That's right, yeah, sorry, I didn't answer the last part of your question. What is full employment, unemployment rate? That's, in other words, what rate are they going to be willing to accept? We're at 3.8%. It looks like we're approaching full employment, which is still pretty low by historical standards. Back in the 90s, Alan Greenspan said the full employment unemployment rate is 6%. Can you imagine that? There's no way we could tolerate that. So whatever my criticisms are, they should be a lot less for today, where the full employment unemployment rate is not 6, but it's not 2, it's not 3. It's probably 3.5 to 3.8. So the Fed's going to have to pull the trigger. And they are pulling the trigger. They are pulling back on some of their stimulus. It's not like they're removing the stimulus, they're just cutting the stimulus. So that's what we're going to see. And I would believe that 3.8 is probably around where we want to be right now. So when the economy gets moving again, back to, by the way, the growth is still, we're talking about growth next year is less than this year. And right now it's less than the first half, which was less than the fourth quarter was 2020 was very strong growth. But that was because of the stimulus package for the Trump administration and also the stimulus package in the first part of the year from the Biden administration. You can't put that kind of money by the Trump administration and the Biden administration without what we're seeing. And we're seeing it bringing down unemployment. But that's a real question, and I would say it's unknown. Just like Jay Powell doesn't know, Ernie Goss doesn't know. We think we know, but we don't know, really. So, yes?
Ernie, I'm curious, you were sharing the information about the housing average cost of a new home these days and the big spike that we've seen year over year. To what degree do you see that beginning to come back down once housing start up again? Again, I realize that's all related to supply chain issues, but I know there are so many markets where the only reason those prices have accelerated is simply because of the supply.
Right, it is a supply issue, more than a demand issue. And we're going to see less and less. The air is coming out of the bubble. We hope it comes out slowly. And folks will say, well, what's the difference between this and 2008 when we saw a housing bubble? This time, we're not going to see those packages of loans being sent out there. Remember that? Packages of loans that you couldn't evaluate. And there were some bad loans in there. And we went to what was called mark to market. Remember that we moved in December, I think, of 2007 to mark to market. And that didn't have a small effect. It had some impact. So this one, we're going to see more supply coming to the market. It's taking time. We just don't have the labor. We don't have the supplies. But we are going to see it. And somebody's going to get hurt because you're betting on 14% growth, just not going to see 14% growth. Luckily, it's going to come down, and as a personal matter, I wouldn't mind it going on because I'm a little house, I'm certainly not rich, but house disproportionately got most of the masses housing. The demand, there's also pent-up demand out there. We've got guys and gals out there that are waiting to buy a house, those younger than millennials. So, okay, yes?
What do you anticipate the mandate on vaccinations having on the labor force?
Well, that's a great question. All these great questions. The question is, what about the mandate? My reading is it's going to, I have a colleague, he and we teach a joint class in the law school. I don't know, it's too much information already. He's not going to, he said, I'm out of here. I'm like, you're out of here? He's not going to take it. I mean, he's had COVID-19. I mean, what about the people who've already had it? I mean, as I understand, the vaccine, those who've had it have better immunity than those of us like me that took the vaccine. I don't know. The CDC, I mean, they've been so fantastic with giving us such consistent information. You know? And I grew up a stone's throw from the CDC, by the way, and that's exactly what they deserve, is a stone's throw right now. I mean, but the mandate is going to, I'm concerned about what it's going to do because at least my contact, just friends, said it's going to hurt. They're going home. And I'm like, yeah, you're going home? He said, yep, I'm going home. I'm not going to take it. And we already had a mandate for students. We're now having a mandate for faculty and staff. So lots of folks, I mean, we hear about shortages in ICU. We don't hear about some of that is produced by medical folks just saying, I'm not taking the vaccine. Not going to. Because in most cases, they've already had COVID-19. I mean, I don't know why they didn't make some allowances for that. I don't know how you allow for that. But those who, I can't tell them. I can't tell them how to run their lives, but that's what we're seeing. And it can't be good. But we haven't seen the impacts yet. I'm not sure when the implementation begins. Do you know that? Does anybody know when it begins? I mean, that alone, we don't know when the mandate begins. All of us, and we're, I think, fairly savvy, news savvy. We don't know when it begins. December? We don't know. Gosh. But it's got to have some ramifications with people that will not take the vaccine because their fear of taking the vaccine on top of the COVID-19 jeopardizing, they think, their health. I'm not a medical person. Although the medical people seem to know that a lot about economics, they put a rent moratorium, eviction moratorium on those of us who rent houses. They said, I'm like, what gives you? Well, they have that authority. Now they're doing with the mandate and the employment, the vaccine mandate on employers is coming from the, what's the agency that? OSHA, yeah, OSHA's, that's coming from OSHA. So I don't know. Next, but Jeff, I think Jeff's going to pull in